Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Gridiron Glory here with Will and Tad, where we talk about all 32 teams in the NFL. And today we're talking about the Cleveland Browns in their first home win of the year, defeating the Ravens 29-24 in one of the biggest upsets of the year so far. So the Browns, they go to 2-6. Baltimore falls to 5-3. This was the first game for the Cleveland Browns since the injury of their former starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, who's now out for the season. We saw Jameis Winston throw for 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked twice. So a big game for Jameis Winston, who's been the best quarterback on the roster all season, despite the fact that he's been backing up Watson. So now you bring Winston in, and the results, they speak for themselves. This was a better game than any game Watson has had this year or in recent memory for the Browns. So um, he made the plays that you have to make. He had the big touchdown passes to Cedric Tillman, two of those for Tillman, and that included the game winner late in the fourth quarter after Baltimore. They took the lead, then the touchdown to Cedric Tillman, they go back in front. So a big um, second half there for Winston to keep Cleveland on track, to keep them a bit ahead of Baltimore for the majority of the game. So he does his job. Nick Chubb has 16 carries for 52 yards. Always great to see him back after the injury. This was his second game back. So yeah, big work there by the Browns offense. And as for their defense, they also did a fairly solid job. And what would your take be on the Cleveland defense holding the Ravens out of the end zone when it mattered the most?
Yeah, just a really big moment there when you needed it the most. Just a really good effort from this team. You know, you make the comeback effort. You stay strong at home against your division rival. You make a moment. You make a statement. Something that this team really needed, right?
Definitely a
You,
much needed win.
I mean, you mentioned guys like Cedric Tillman and Jameis Winston and the Cleveland defense, just putting together a really astounding effort. I mean, this was a game that, really spoke volumes to me as to what the Browns can be capable of when they put forth a really good effort. I mean, let's not take away from some big moments from the Ravens either with guys, on their end too. But yeah, I mean, if you had any other takes on the Browns, or were you asking me more of a specific question?
Also, credit to David Njoku for scoring the touchdown on National Tight End Day.
Yeah. National Tight Ends Day. I mean, really, you can call it Tight Ends Week, because we're talking about it. So, I mean, I feel like it's a holiday worth celebrating and mentioning as well because the tight ends deserve love.
Absolutely, they had a big Sunday.
I just kind of wish you had National Offensive Lineman Day, personally, or I wish there was a day for the linemen, personally. There should be.
Yeah. You should set up that holiday. That would be a great thing that you could take the lead on.
I feel like an NFL lineman would have to do it.
Yeah, get an NFL lineman to partner with you. Yeah.
An idea.
But yeah, looking more at the Baltimore Ravens, a tough loss for a team fighting for the division lead. They fall in a game behind Pittsburgh after the Steelers win, but for the Ravens, Lamar was 23 of 38, 289, 2 touchdowns, also 46 yards on the ground. So he did what he could. Another issue I see with the Ravens offense, they fell back into this pattern that sort of led to their slow start. Derrick Henry only 11 carries. He finished with 73 yards and a touchdown. What's your take on Derrick Henry only having 11 carries for the game?
My take is that Jim Harbaugh, just doesn't know how to utilize the running game as good as he should when he needs to sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, that's kind of what has plagued the Ravens for the past several years.
It's not a Derrick Henry problem. This is now a Jim Harbaugh problem. He just doesn't know how to use his running backs when he needs to. And I feel like he depends on Lamar Jackson too much to rush.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely a solid take. That cost them in the playoffs last year when they lost in the AFC Championship game. They went away from the run. So you would think that when they bring in Derrick Henry, you'd want to utilize him, but it seems in some of their losses they've went away from that. So I don't know if they're just trying to be comfortable, to be careful with him, save him for later on in the season. But if you want to win ball games, you got to give Derrick Henry the ball more, I think.
I mean, yeah, you definitely got to get Derrick. I mean, you could argue that, you need Derrick Henry to win, and you didn't use him enough. That's not enough.
Agreed. Yeah. Looking at the Baltimore receiving game, big day for Zay Flowers, 7 catches for 115 yards, and the Ravens, they've been looking for a number 2 receiver to break out. Besides Zay Flowers for a bit now. So we just saw the news recently that they've traded for Deontay Johnson. So what do you think that will impact the Ravens offense, having a new high level receiver in Johnson?
Well, it definitely adds to the arsenal that he already has. So, I mean, you got guys like Zay Flower, Isaiah Likely, Nelson Aguilar, and now, this is a team, the Baltimore Ravens, that, they want to get to the Super Bowl just as badly as the Lions, as badly as the Bills. They're a team right in that tier, right in that category, and they're trying to do it, and they believe that Deontay Johnson is a guy that can come in here and help them. You're going to go out there and, you can do what you can to try to make Super Bowl-like moves. And, to me, it's like Deontay Johnson, he's a guy that, he's had some, the fact that he's been able to win in some the fact that he's been able to be an upper echelon player statistically in some rough systems really speaks to that, don't you think, Pat?
Yeah, I'd certainly agree. He's produced quality enough seasons with quarterbacks like Bryce Young, Mason Rudolph, so not like top shelf guys. And now it'll be interesting to see what he does with a guy like Lamar Jackson. I'm interested to see how that dynamic works out.
Right, absolutely. So, yeah, just shout out to the Browns and shout out to David Njoku. But we haven't even talked about the main character of this football game, Jameis Winston. And yeah, Tad, where would you rank Jameis Winston amongst? Would you say he's a starting quarterback, or would you say he's a backup? Or
he's a starter now.
He's been a start. He's like one of those quarterbacks that's he's been like a starter sometimes and a backup sometimes.
He hasn't been a starter for a few years before this. It's been at least a couple years since he last started full time. But yeah,
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Where would you rank Jameis Winston's performance amongst the Week 8 starting quarterbacks? Out of 32, one of 32. And you have a pretty good idea of all 32 performances. For me, number 32 is Anthony Richardson. We'll get into that. But yeah.
There were some bias too.
There were some bias.
But yeah, Richardson was last, that's for sure. Definitely an upper echelon performance from Jameis Winston. He had a pretty quality going. Jalen Hurts had a big day. Matthew Stafford had a big day. On Thursday, obviously Kirk Cousins had a big day. Baker Mayfield did what he could. I'd say he was up near the higher tier. But Bo Nix had a big day. Credit there. But yeah, I'd say Jameis Winston was right up there with the best of them. I mean, the no turnovers,
Definitely, I'd say it was a top 16 performance of the 32.
I'd say higher than that. I'd say top 5.
Top 8.
Top 5
performance, top 5 performance of the week.
That's what I'll say. I'll stick with top 5. Yeah.
I mean, no interceptions. You know, beautiful. I mean, you went out there, you looked confident.
Yeah, he did what he could. I mean, he's a great player, and as I've said for most of the year, he's been the best quarterback on Cleveland's roster. They've just started Deshaun Watson for some financial reasons, basically.
And we talked about that in the preseason, you know, kind of just a situation there. But yeah, but hey, you know, I'd say if I'm the Browns, keep rolling with Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I think there's no question that's what they'll do moving forward, and I would definitely imagine.
Nick, what was your take on Nick Chubb's running and gritty performance of Nick Chubb being back? Their best offensive player.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, when Nick Chubb is back, I mean that's great to see. We never really knew what we'd get out of Nick Chubb after his big injury, but it's just great to see him out there doing what he can do. The Ravens have a stout run defense, and that had a lot to do with his 3.3 yards per carry. You'll see better than that against other defenses, but yeah, I mean, I'll expect like when they're playing next week against the Chargers, I think that we'll see a pretty strong effort there, and we'll get Winston. We'll see if they can keep the momentum rolling. So yeah, like I said, the Chargers will be coming to town, playing the Browns in Cleveland, and looking at Baltimore, they'll be hosting your Denver Broncos will next week. So that'll be their bounce back.
Interesting football game. You know, I told a friend of ours who's a big Ravens fan. Yeah, I was like, yeah, Ravens will probably smoke the Broncos, but you know, but then he said we'll see to that. Now I'm actually kind of, you know, maybe we will actually see. I don't know.
I mean, we will see. I mean, as long as our eyes work.
Where would you rank the Denver-Baltimore AFC rivalry? Like the playoff history between these two teams and everything like that. Just like it's a solid enough AFC rivalry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's got some juice. It's got some juice, especially with the playoff performances, some regular season meetings. I mean, and now it'll be interesting to see it get revisited with Bo Nix and Lamar Jackson.
Bo Nix, what a guy! We'll get into him.
We sure will.
But yeah, I don't have any thoughts or takes on this unless you do.
Perfect. I do not. So yeah, thank you for following along. Please like our page, follow, subscribe to all our channels, our social media, and thanks for watching.